Hi, welcome to today's really special session aimed especially at nurses preparing for work in the UK. So if you are a nurse who is hoping to work in the UK through registration with the Nursing and Midwifery Council and to be employed by an NHS trust, this is a session especially for you. We're hosting our webinar today live on our Facebook and YouTube channel. So hi to everybody joining us across both of those channels. Also, hello to any of you who are watching after the recording has finished. It's great to have you joining us for this session. We hope you're going to find it very, very useful. As you listen to the speakers in today's session, you're welcome to ask questions at any point by typing them into the event comment box. We'll collate all of the questions that you ask, and we've got time allocated at the end of today's session to ask the speakers that are joining. We also have joining us, as well as the live speakers you've seen posted on the event, we've got Natasha Dare joining us from the NMC. So we've got a really good panel to answer all of your questions about working in the UK, registering with the NMC and working with an NHS trust. So let's get started. Are you hoping to become a registered nurse in the UK? Do you feel you clearly understand how to meet the English language requirements to be able to register as a nurse in the UK? As an internationally educated nurse, midwife, or nursing associate, if you have trained outside the UK, you'll be aware that there are now alternative ways to prove your English to the UK's Nursing and Midwifery Council, the NMC, including the new SIFE pathway, which you may have also heard pronounced SIF. SIFE stands for Supporting Information from Employers. And in this session, we're going to outline the OET and SIFE pathways in helping you achieve your dreams of living and working in the UK, along with the differences between those two pathways. So joining me in today's discussion, we're pleased to have Boyce from Devon Alliance for International Recruitment, and my colleague Nadia Falou, who's Stakeholder Relations and Partnerships Officer from OET. Nadia is also an experienced English language teacher and OET expert, and they are going to share their perspectives on the two options available to you and the importance of making the right choice for your future nursing career. So before we compare those two pathways, let's introduce Carly and a little bit more background on the trust where she works, which is in Devon. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for the invitation to come along and talk today through the various options available. So my name is Carly Boyce and I am the Deputy International Workforce Lead for the Devon Alliance for International Recruitment. So I'm a nurse. I've been nursing for over 20 years. I won't say exactly how many because then you'll know how old I am. But it's an absolute pleasure to come along and talk to so many of you that are dialing in from over the globe about the various routes that are available to you. So the Devon Alliance is an NHS team and we recruit for healthcare providers within Devon and the South West. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Devon because if you don't know where Devon is, so someone only this morning said to me, is Devon in Scotland? No, it's absolutely not. So we are very lucky and fortunate to be down in the southwest of England. We're about an hour or so from Bristol and about 3 hours from London. Now, I was born in Devon and I've lived and worked here for the majority of my professional life, and it's the best area to work and to raise a family. We have the best beaches. I live in Devon and I'm about 10 minutes away from the nearest beach. The most beautiful, dramatic scenery. If you've not heard of Devon before, just Google it and you'll see what I mean. Next slide, please. So as a Devon Alliance NHS team, we've been established for about 2 years now, just over, and really proud to say we have recruited 1,100 nurses to work in Devon. We've also recruited care workers, midwives, and our allied health professional colleagues. And we offer a really robust package for nurses who want to come and work in our hospitals and care providers. So we provide the following. So we will pay for your flight to the UK, and we offer a fast deployment. Obviously, that is very much based on you getting us your documents as soon as possible. Now, our fastest deployment to date has been about 5 weeks from interview to arrival, and that's a nurse who was really organised, had all of her documents ready and got them in nice and quickly. So we can offer you that fast deployment, or a later deployment if you wish. Some people say they don't want to come for 4 or 5 months. That's absolutely fine. Obviously, you will be given that UK skilled worker visa, which means, you know, at some point you can bring your family across, which the majority of our nurses do. You get that welcome package. You will be collected from the airport. You'll be supported in setting up bank accounts in Devon when you get to the UK, because we know you're not going to get paid until you get that UK bank account. So that is nearly the first day of your arrival. I think we allow you the first day to get over jet lag, and on day 2, we take you into town and set up that UK bank account. Now, when you arrive, we know that you're going to be absolutely exhausted. So in your accommodation, there is a food hamper to get you through the first few days, and a SIM card, because we know you're going to want to phone home and speak to your families. And we have really good internet access in our Devon hospitals. As part of the offer, you know, you will get free healthcare, NHS healthcare when you get here, and schooling. And that's sometimes a real attraction for people that are going to be bringing over children. And the British education is second to none. It's, you know, it's renowned for standards. So that's very attractive. Now, we do repay you for some of your essential expenses. So, for example, we will pay for your OET exam. We'll pay for your CBT registration example. But please do have a look at our website. I know I'm joined today by Laura and Emily from the Devon Alliance team also. They've put some links in the chat as to where you can have a look in detail at the offer that we give. Please have a look at our lovely website. And I'll talk about the full pastoral care package that we offer. So sometimes the word pastoral, people are often confused at that, and it may be your first glimpse of that word pastoral. So pastoral is all about your welfare. It's all about your emotional needs, your physical needs. We make sure you are really looked after before you get here, just to make that transition a little bit easier. Next slide, please. Now, the pastoral support we do is from the minute you get that job offer, we're going to look after you, okay? So we're going to give you some education through our webinars. Now, at the moment, we have a Devon Alliance YouTube channel. There are over 60 educational webinars on there that we've recorded with subject matter experts. For example, a dementia nurse. We've talked about looking after patients with dementia. We've had some real experts come and deliver some education sessions. And I'm really excited to say that in the next few weeks, we're about to go live with our e-learning platform. So the expectation will be that all of our international candidates will complete the e-learning platform before they get here. And we have written that based on the feedback we've had over the last 2 years from our nurses and from our clinical leads at the hospitals. So, for example, one of the modules is based on telephone handovers, because we know how stressful it is for an international recruit to answer the phone on the ward and take your first patient handover because you're not able to lip read. So we've done a whole module on that, and that's been recorded with our international nurses. So really excited. So please follow us on social media, and you'll see more over the next few weeks. We will introduce you to diaspora groups. So a diaspora group is a group based on your country of origin. So, for example, there is an Indian Nurses Association. They will become a second family to you, and it's an additional means of support when you first arrive here. We've also got a pastoral passport document. Now, that is a very comprehensive electronic booklet, and it even makes a noise as you turn the pages. It makes a swoosh sound, which seems to go down really well, and it tells you everything you need to know about living and working in Devon, including what the seasons are like, what sort of thing to pack. Is it going to be cold when you arrive? It's got information on there about finding accommodation, your onward career development, and the very important how to make a Devon cream tea, which we're very proud of in Devon. We will also set up a pre-arrival meeting with you and your group before you get here, and a WhatsApp group. So you start to make friends with other arrivals before you get here. And I say to nurses all the time, this will become like your Devon family when you get here. You will support each other through your OSCE exams, and these will be your friends for the first few months. So once you've got here and once you've been collected from the airport, we'll give it a couple of weeks and then we'll set up another meeting just to check in with you, make sure you're okay, pick up any issues that you may be having, and action them. So we never really say goodbye to our candidates, and we will always send you opportunities that are coming up in terms of career development for the future. And we are that Devon IR support network. We have nurses 2-3 years down the line getting in contact with us to let us know they've just been successful in a band 6 or a band 7. And that's always really rewarding to get that feedback. And we are really keen on your ongoing career development, because we know and we recognise the experience that you bring with you, and we need you to be in those leadership positions in the future. Next slide, please. So this is just a little screenshot of our Devon Alliance YouTube channel. So we've had some of our nurses come on. So the lovely Brian came on and talked about cost of living, which was really well received. And then on the left, we're talking with a community nurse, senior nurse there, talking about working in community teams. Please have a look. They're free to access, and they're there for you to use. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our social media details on there. Please give us a like and a follow. We put on some really information on there, even if you're not thinking about coming to Devon. It's a really good resource to use. So please have a look. We're quite new to the TikTok game, so have a look on there for some amusing videos that we post. Yeah, please have a look and give us. I always say, give us a like, give us a love, and give us a share. But yeah, we'd be pleased to see you on there. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Carly. Wow, that's really inspirational to hear all of the ways that you're supporting nurses coming over to the UK. It's definitely wraparound care, making new nurses feel really welcome into the UK and Devon in particular. So I'm sure we've got lots of nurses who have been listening to your explanation, who are now feeling like I'm Devon's on the top of my list. I'm going to find out more about applying. So let's come back to the topic of today's session, which is all about the different ways you can get into the UK to register and then potentially work for the Devon Alliance. So today we're talking about SIFE. Can you explain what is SIFE and who does it really apply to?
Yeah, absolutely, Rebecca. So SIFE, so for those of you that have not come across the SIFE before, the SIFE is the Supporting Information from Employers document, okay? So back in May, it's actually the 27th of May this year, the NMC have allowed this to be an additional means of evidence for workers that are working in the UK, instead of using a English exam, okay? However, there are some constraints to that. So the SIFE is used for nurses that have been trained in countries where English is not the majority spoken language. And like I said, it's that supplemental proof of completing English pre-registration. So basically, what it means is that people that are working over here as care workers, they can use this if they've worked here for 12 months or an equivalent full time, instead of an English certificate. However, there are some downsides to this. So it would mean that people have to work in a nursing-led environment because they need 2 senior registrants to sign off this SIFE form. One of them has to be their line manager and has to be at least a band 6. And then the secondary signature has to be a band 8, okay? So you have to work where a nurse, at least a band 6, is going to be your manager, okay? And you have to have been working there for at least 12 months. Now, you can also use SIFE if you have attempted 2 OET tests and have narrowly missed the required score in any one language domain by no more than half a grade in OET. Now, the other thing I need to mention here is you need to have had the same line manager for at least 6 months and no more than 2 line managers in that 12-month period. All right. So we have seen examples of our care workers, support workers working in the NHS who have trained as nurses at home, but they've come over here to work as carers. We've seen them use this process to be able to register on the NMC as a registrant. So that's what the SIFE route is in a nutshell.
Thank you for the explanation, Carly. I think it's really interesting to hear who it's really aimed at. So for nurses living and working in the UK already, not for nurses that are still currently overseas. Is it right in saying that if a nurse is still overseas now, the SIFE pathway would be a really long detour, in effect, to coming to the UK?
It might be, and we receive a lot of inquiries at the Devon Alliance about nurses that want to come and work as care workers and go through the SIFE route. So first off, you're going to have to try and get a care worker position at an organisation that's going to have nursing leads, because you need 2 registrants, a band 6 and an 8, to sign you off. That can be difficult at times, but also for me, you've spent 3 or 4 years completing your nurse training. We want you to come and work as registrants, and this is not a quick fix. This is not a quicker or easier way of becoming a registrant. Obviously, you're gonna need to, find a job and be employed as a care worker here, and then that's going to be a lower salary than what it would be as a registered nurse, and you're going to have to wait at least 12 months. So it could be a really lengthy process in comparison to just passing your OET.
And presumably that wraparound care that you were talking about at the beginning isn't available to the unregistered positions.
No, and we've seen sort of care workers who are working here, so already established care workers in our NHS providers that have trained as nurses elsewhere. They're already existing employees, so although there would be a support package there from the employer, they wouldn't receive the pastoral support that we offer for nurses that are coming over that have already got their English. And again, it's that, you want to come and work as a registered nurse. You've trained and worked so long. We want to pay you as a registered nurse, and we want you to be fulfilled in your career.
Absolutely. Thanks. So I'm going to bring Nadia in now just to talk a little bit more about the employer aspect of SIFE. So yeah, Nadia, over to you.
Thanks, Rebecca. And it's lovely to hear, Carly, about all the support that Devon provides to go and work with you. It's an incredible program that you have there. I think, like Carly was saying, there is a very strict process in place for being eligible for the SIFE route. And the responsibility of signing off the document rests with your employer, and they do have specific and detailed guidelines and processes in place that they have to follow. So like Carly was saying, you have to have an employer or your manager with you for 6 months and no more than 2 in a 12-month period, and that line manager has to be registered with the NMC and a band 6 or above. And then if they agree to sign it off, then it goes to a second manager who's band 8A or above to countersign it. So it has to go through 2 nurses registered with the NMC for it to be eligible. But the truth is that they're under no obligation to sign off the form. So it is the employer's responsibility to sign it off, but they can only do that if they are certain that you have the level of English required to ensure patient safety. So you still need to demonstrate advanced English language skills for them to be able to sign off the form. So even if you've been in the UK for 12 months, you've found that employer, you've been with the same manager for that amount of time, they're registered with the NMC, they are under no obligation to sign off the form if they cannot state with confidence that you have those English language skills to ensure patient safety, because that's what it comes down to.
Thanks, Nadia. Just before I summarise then the SIFE pathway, Carly, was there anything else you wanted to add around that, or have you covered it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just to echo really that your employer isn't under an obligation to do this. If they decide they do want to support you, they will absolutely need to be assured that your English level is of a safe and acceptable standard. So yeah, the SIFE is a challenging route. It's not. I think there's a bit of a myth that it is the easy way, and it certainly isn't.
All right, thank you both. So essentially, in summary, what we've heard about the SIFE pathway is if you're not already living and working in the UK in an unregistered role with a UK employer, getting NMC registration through SIFE is likely to take a long detour towards achieving your dreams of living and working in the UK. And the main point that both Nadia and Carly have been emphasising is that as a pathway, the outcome is also not guaranteed. So if we turn now to look at the other pathway available to you, which is the OET pathway, OET offer a comprehensive solution that requires no input from an employer at all. Opting to prepare for and take an English language test, such as OET, eliminates any uncertainty around whether your application to the NMC will be accepted or not. And it also offers numerous advantages for your career, as OET results are accepted for both registration and immigration. So Nadia, starting with you, what are your perspectives on the OET pathway?
I think the main benefit of the OET pathway is it's a guaranteed route. So the NMC recognise OET as the only English language test specifically for healthcare professionals, and your results will be accepted by the Nursing and Midwifery Council, but also by the Devon Alliance. So when you're applying to them, they will also recognise your results, which is so important. One thing that's also important to point out is that with the new changes that came in from the Nursing and Midwifery Council this year, there's a further benefit if you do OET and you can actually combine your results, or you can club your results together. So in the past, if you had done OET and you didn't quite make that grade, you were maybe half a band below, and then you did the test again, you used to have 6 months to combine your scores. They've now extended that to 12 months. You'll be able to combine your results for a period of 12 months, which is an enormous benefit if you're using OET to get through. And like we say, once you've shared those results and you have them, nobody can question them, because it's there, and you share everything through our results verification portal. So as soon as your results are released, you can get them straight to the NMC and to the Devon Alliance.
Great. And Carly, how does Devon Alliance feel about nurses applying to them through the OET pathway?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the OET, it's that recognised English qualification, and you have to be able to demonstrate that English language for UK immigration anyway. So if there are people on the line that are thinking they're still very adamant that they want to apply as a care worker to come and work in the NHS, they're going to have to demonstrate a certain level of English anyway for their UK immigration criteria. So why not just give it a little bit more time and get the OET? It's an occupational English test, okay? It will really help your clinical competence when you get here in the work area.
Thanks, Carly. And I think that's a really important point. Nadia, do you want to pick up on that as well, the clinical communication aspect?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the wonderful things about OET is that it is designed for healthcare professionals. So every part of the test is designed with the healthcare professional in mind, and it's designed to reflect the communication skills that you will need to use every day in your job. So as you're preparing for OET, you're not just preparing for an English language exam or for a test that then you're going to forget everything. You're actually going to take those skills with you. So if you look at each part of the paper, the test itself is designed with subject matter experts who are involved in the test creation process, and they're consulted at every step of the journey. So to make sure that what you're being tested on is relevant, and it's gone through them as well. Looking at each of the 4 papers, you know, if you look at the listening test, the first part of the test, you're listening to a healthcare professional and a patient, and you're completing notes just like you would in the workplace. So building those real life skills. For reading, I love reading part A. I have to say I'm a big fan of that test. People say, oh, you know, it's really strict. It's only 15 minutes. But there's a really important point to that. And that's because when you're working in an English-speaking environment in healthcare settings such as the NHS, you might find yourself in a situation where you need to find written information very quickly. So you'd have to look through a text quickly, maybe to find a dosage. You have to be able to find that information quickly but accurately. So it's not just about, for example, finding a dosage. You have to find out, you know, what's the dosage for the patient that you're caring for. So because it might vary, for example, if you're looking after a younger patient to an older patient, the dosage level might be different. So those are the kind of things that we look for in reading part A. Can you find information quickly to ensure patient safety, especially if you're working in an emergency environment, but to ensure that you're giving the correct dosage to your patients. For the writing, usually in a writing exam, you're asked to write an essay. In OET, it's not like that. We give you case notes and we'll ask you to write, for example, a discharge letter or a transfer letter, just like you would have to do in your job. So it's about using the case notes to find specific information that's important for your reader, that they will need to ensure the ongoing care of a patient that you're handing over. And finally, the speaking test. I think it goes without saying that I am such a fan of the speaking test, but we're not interviewing you. You go into the room with an interlocutor, not the examiner, and they're there to do the role play with you in a situation where you would take the role of your professional self. You're a nurse, so we just ask you to be yourself, be a nurse. You're given a role play card to do a task. The interlocutor could be a patient, a relative, or a carer, but we're interested in looking at your language skills. Of course, we're a language test, but in addition to that, we're looking at your clinical communication skills. So how well did you give information? How well did you get information? Were you able to show empathy and build a rapport with that patient, relative, or carer, which is so important, certainly here in the UK, for patient-centred care. I'm sure Carly can talk a lot about that and how it works within the NHS. So by, again, going back to it, when you're building these skills, when you're doing your preparation, yes, you're preparing for your OET test, which will open the door for you and be a guaranteed route, but then you can take those skills with you into the NHS. But in addition to that, you can use the skills you've built for your speaking test, for your OSCE preparation as well. So there's an enormous number of benefits. I could probably do a whole session on every part of the test, but we don't have time for that. But I hope that's given people just an insight on how relevant each part of the test is.
Thanks, Nadia. Yes. Carly, anything else you would like to offer about the OET pathway?
Not really. It's just absolutely what Nadia said. That this is really going to help that clinical induction when you get here and start working on the wards or teams wherever you're allocated. We do allocate you depending on your experience, but yeah, it will help you in terms of the terms that we use, and yeah, all the rest of it. We've seen that it really helps with that first transitional phase.
Great, thank you. So to summarise the OET pathway, as we've just been hearing from Nadia and from Carly, for nurses who haven't yet migrated to the UK, when it comes to your dream of pursuing a satisfying and successful nursing career in the UK, OET is still your best choice. Your OET results comply for visa requirements. They also provide greater financial stability, lots of job prospects, as well as confidence in your clinical communication, and they are internationally recognised. As Carly was saying earlier, you put in all the effort to qualify as a nurse, and the OET pathway respects that qualification that you already hold, and the NHS are ready to welcome you into their hospitals to recognise you working as a nurse here in the UK. So don't miss out on the added value that OET brings. It prepares you for excellence in the workplace. It provides you with support so that you can communicate confidently with patients and colleagues, and it opens doors to a fulfilling and successful nursing career. So we want you to choose the pathway that is best for you. And we're going to move now into our Q&A session. As I mentioned earlier, we're thrilled to be joined by Natasha from the NMC, as well as we've got Carly and Nadia both staying on the chat. We've got around half an hour available to go through questions. And if you haven't already put a question into the comment for the event, then please feel free to do that now. I'm going to look at the questions that have already been submitted, and we'll get starting for those. So, Carly, I think the first one is for you. It's from Karthika on Facebook. Are you conducting international recruitment for healthcare? Is that associate, HCA? I'm not sure. Assistant,
yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Healthcare assistant. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So we have so this year we have recruited care workers for social care. So at the moment we that's just on pause at the moment. We are expecting to start recruiting care workers again for social care, but I just need to add to that. The majority of our social care providers may not have a registered nurse band 6 and a registered nurse band 8 who may be able to sign off the SIFE form. So people are thinking about coming to work in maybe social care and working as a carer. That may not be straightforward because some of our homes are residential homes, so there'll be a registered home manager, but there may not be a registered nurse. So that is not always the easy option. And we, again, even to come and work as a care worker for our social care providers, you're going to need to demonstrate a level of English for your visa. So why not just spend a bit more time and do the OET and come and work as a registrant that you've trained to do for 4 years?
Yeah, thanks, Carly. This next question from YouTube, perhaps Natasha, I'll ask you first, and maybe Carly, you'll have something else to add. So we've had some questions coming through about recruitment from different parts of the world. Recruitment from Ghana is particular being asked here. But what's the NMC's position on recruitment from overseas?
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be boring and say that we are entirely neutral on recruitment, by which I mean that we go with the government's advice on recruitment. It's not something that we directly get involved in ourselves. So we are relying on employers to use the government's advice about the countries that you could do active recruitment from. So I'm afraid the NMC doesn't really have a role in recruitment itself. Okay, but it's still helpful to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. Carly, then let's go to you.
Yeah, so we are an ethical recruiter. So there is a list with ethical recruiters and we are on there. So we abide by the recommendations by the World Health Organization. So, for example, And that changes all the time. For countries that may not have enough nurses themselves, it wouldn't be ethical for us to recruit from those countries. So we do not recruit from what we call red list countries, and that's on the red list dictated by the World Health Organization.
All right, thank you for that one. Nadia, I'm going to ask you a question. This one's from Nico on YouTube. Is OET accepted in the US and Canada? So this would be a competitor to those looking to register for here in the UK, but it's worth answering that question, I think, in any case.
OET is gaining a lot of recognition in the US and in Canada, which is really wonderful news if you are looking to go to North America. So I'd advise, have a look on our website, oet.com. We have a list of recognising organisations in the USA and Canada, so you can see where you can use your OET. And when you have your result as well, use your verification portal and you can share it directly with those recognising organisations as well.
Thank you very much. All right, this question from Shanmuga on Facebook. I've got a gap of around 4 years. I'm assuming partly because of having maternity leave, but I am living in the UK. I've passed OET and I've started my NMC processing. Carly, would Shanmuga be able to apply to work in Devon?
So that's quite a gap, 4 years. So we ask for sort of no gap more than 18 months, 2 years for applications that come through us, just because it's, we need to be able to demonstrate that recent clinical duty. But, you could absolutely think about getting some experience if you're here already in the UK. I don't know if you're working as a care worker at the moment, but getting some hands-on experience as soon as you can would be really helpful.
Thanks, Carly. And Natasha, is that true as well for NMC applications? Is there anything related to gaps in service?
No, there isn't. What we're looking for relation to people's qualifications is that they have training in nursing or midwifery or as a nursing associate, and then you have to successfully take our test of competence, which has 2 parts, the CBT, which is the writing part, and the OSCE, which is the clinical part that you do in the UK. So because we have everyone go through those very rigorous tests, then less gaps in people's experience. But of course, if you do have a gap, it's worth taking the time to refresh your learning, because you're going to need to be able to be really up to speed to be able to pass the NMC's test of competence.
All right, thank you very much. And I might just move on to this, which is a sort of a follow-up question, Natasha. Is there any time limit after someone's achieved OET results that they can register with the NMC?
Yes, you have up to 2 years after passing your OET to register with the NMC.
Thank you very much. Nice and easy answer. All right. Carly, this one I'll just pop on the screen. I know your colleagues have been answering these kinds of questions, but I'll just get you to speak to this as well. So Jan is saying on Facebook that he's applied to Devon, but hasn't had a response yet.
That's fine. If you have made an application through the Devon Alliance, we've got your name. We will have a look. And if you could just pop your email in the chat, we'll be able to get back to you.
That's great. All right. We're having a few more questions again about where it's possible to recruit from. So we've had this question from Pakistan, also from Nigeria. So I'll just reiterate, I think, the advice that Carly was saying earlier. The best place to check whether UK NHS Trust would be able to recruit from your country is to check the World Health Organization website. That's WHO. Does anybody know the ending?
So Laura from the Alliance, I think she's put the link in the chat to have a look at the list. Yeah.
Have a look at the World Health Organization website to see if the trusts are able to recruit ethically from your country. All right. This question again, I think aimed at you, Carly, probably. Sila on Facebook is saying, are you currently recruiting for mental health nurses?
We are indeed. Yeah. The link to the website, which has got the application button. Have a look on the website and get your application form in.
Lovely, thank you. That's good news. Just trying to see if there are any other questions that I haven't already asked. I think this one is really about the whole session that we've been looking at today. And so Anita on YouTube is saying, if I work in the UK as a carer for 1 year, I don't have to write OET. So perhaps Anita joined a little bit later on in the session. Carly, could I just throw back to you to re-summarise what were your thoughts on that as an idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Anita, it's not as sort of black and white as that, really. So there is an option that if you've been working as a carer for 12 months with an employer that has got registered nurses working there at band 6 and band 8 levels, it's a possibility, but your employer is under no obligation to do this, and this could be quite a long, arduous journey or pathway for you. But I guess you'll need to go and have a conversation with your employer. I know that the team have put the link to the NMC SIFE guidance on there. Have a little look and take the information with you and have a chat with your manager.
Lovely, thank you. Nadia, do you want to add anything to that about what we were saying about the OET pathway benefits?
I think Carly has said it really well, is that do bear in mind it's not a guaranteed route. I think if anybody is telling you this is a route and it's quicker, that usually sounds too good to be true. It probably is. Like Carly said, you have to have the right employers to sign off the form. If the employer is not convinced of the level of English required, because you still have to demonstrate the level of English you'd need to obtain in OET. So a C1 if you're using the Common European Framework of Reference, or an advanced level of English to ensure patient safety. So there is an option, but it's absolutely not guaranteed, and it could actually turn out to be a much lengthier process, because if you're not at that level, you would need to get to that level before they could sign it off. Whereas if you do the OET, you're building up the skills, like we were saying, that you need on your job. It's not just you're building the skills for the test, but it can be a faster route to register. And it's guaranteed. So if you've got your OET result, nobody can question that. You don't need to worry about getting your result authorized by anybody. It's all verified through us when you've got your result released. So you'd be ready to share that and register with the NMC.
Lovely, thank you. Natasha, I think this one might be for you. So Nilani's from Facebook has provided quite a few details. So her original nursing diploma wasn't in English, but she has now been working as a healthcare assistant for more than 1 year in a nursing home. She's asking, could she apply without OET, which you probably can't answer, but could you answer from the aspect of the nursing diploma wasn't taught in English?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it sounds like from the information that you've provided that you wouldn't be able to use SIFE, because SIFE is only supplementary evidence to someone who is taught in English, someone who's just missed the test scores in OET or IELTS. So if you don't have either a very near miss in one of the test scores, or you weren't taught and examined in English, then I'm afraid SIFE is not an option for you, because it's only to one of the main types of evidence that we already accept. It's not a standalone type of evidence.
Lovely, thank you, Natasha. Nadia, this is one for you about OET. So Ikra on YouTube is asking, who is assessing OET tests? So where is that assessed in the world?
It's all assessed in Australia. So all of the tests, like we're saying, so wherever you're taking the test, including the speaking, when you're in your speaking test room, you're not doing the test with the examiner. So everything will be sent off to Australia where it's marked, and it is double marked as well. So for example, your speaking test, to make sure that the result you have is fair and reliable.
That's great, thank you. I'm just seeing if we've got a couple more questions. I think we've nearly covered them all. Maybe this one we have kind of already answered. Callison on Facebook is saying, are you hiring as well for those who don't have experience or have a big gap? So Carly, just to repeat that, you're looking, I think you were saying nothing more than 18 months?
So the gap is, nothing more than sort of 18 months to 2 years gap. We know a lot of people take a year out to do their OET. In terms of clinical experience, we ask for a minimum of 6 months. But what we do often do is, if nurses have just started in their first job as a registered nurse overseas and they want an interview, we will interview them and then arrange for them to arrive when their 6 months has been completed. So we're happy for you to apply, and we will interview you and plan for deployment once you've hit the 6 months.
Okay, thank you. That's a really nice option that people can also consider. All right, I think we've exhausted all of the questions that have been coming in. One that has just sneaked in quickly. Nadia, again, for OET, have we got any changes planned for OET next year?
No. So you go to our website, you've got the sample papers that you can use. If you're thinking about doing OET on computer, there are also sample papers for the computer-based test as well. And one thing that did come in this year actually is that we have more dates for computer-based tests. So if you are looking to take your exam, we do have more options available. So computer-based testing is now available Wednesday to Saturday, and we still have obviously the paper-based test dates, which is usually twice a month. So please have a look on oet.com for all of the dates, and good luck with your tests.
Thanks, Nadia. And I'll just sort of reiterate a little bit about the relationship that OET has with trusts, with the NMC. You know, I saw some questions coming through a little bit earlier from candidates who are asking about different parts of the test. Nadia mentioned, you know, you've only got 15 minutes for reading part A, which is found quite challenging by a number of candidates. But OET, when they're preparing testing materials, speak to regulators such as the NMC, speak to employers such as the NHS trusts and say, you know, what are the skills that nurses need to be able to have, that they need to be able to demonstrate to work? And that was the thing that Carly was pointing out earlier, safely in English. It's not just about setting a level that you need to hit. It's about everything is about patient safety from both the regulatory and the employment aspect. We're dealing with patients, and as you're well aware from your careers so far, the most important thing is clear communication. So when we design any of our test tasks, we are speaking, as I say, to employers, to regulators, to alumni, people who've already taken the test and are now working in an English-speaking environment, to make sure that all of our tasks are suitable and are preparing you for the workplace and for success in your career. So I think just to sort of bring this towards a close, I think that's a really nice way of thinking about it. As we've heard from everybody here today, OET is really offering you a good option for success in your career going forward. So I think, as I said, I'll bring that to a close now. I'd like to say thank you very much to Natasha from the NMC, from Carly from Devon Alliance, and my colleague Nadia for joining us today. If you missed the beginning of this session, the recording of it will be available from our Facebook and YouTube channels right after the session ends. The Devon Alliance have also been streaming it to their social channels. So you can go back and watch the recording later on. But thank you to everybody joining today and for those of you listening in. All right. Thanks then. Bye for now.